Hey, what's up? I'm Chiraag. I'm with the Blank Space Podcast, and today our first guest is Reeze.
Yeah, I'm Reeze Gardner, currently a freshman at Babson College, and I'm honored to be invited on the podcast.
All right, so first you just want to introduce what you're doing now or how you got here.
Yeah, for sure. So last year I attended Hyde High School, and before that I attended Messalonsky High School. My journey to Babson really came through basketball, actually. My goal was to always play basketball in college, and Babson kind of came up on my radar as a D3 business school, and I knew that was roughly the direction I wanted to go in. But unfortunately, due to an accident during the basketball season, I broke my hand and kind of went through some time where I didn't really know what I was doing without basketball because it's been ingrained in my life so much. And that's when I really started to learn about entrepreneurship. I started reading books such as Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Psychology of Money, stuff like that. So then I really realized the opportunities that Babson brought in terms of entrepreneurship and just the people around me. So I'm currently running a vintage clothing business called Revolution. Started in the beginning of this school year. So basically what I do is I curate vintage collections through multiple sources such as thrift stores, estate sales, other sources, and we've created a pretty good community. We just reached 500 followers on Instagram and we've been going strong so far, so appreciate that.
So do you think that basketball injury was your biggest influence to entrepreneurship, or was there someone along the way, like your parents or something?
Yeah, honestly, my parents weren't a big influence in terms of entrepreneurship. I would say that event probably led me that direction the most, but my mentor actually, Earl Gerchens, he's the CEO and founder of Free Access. It's a flooring technology company based out of New Jersey. He came to my prep school last year and he was just talking about his journey and everything, and we've stayed in contact ever since then. He kind of guided me to really show me the benefits of entrepreneurship. So
nice. Yeah. So was that speech the first thing that did it for you, or I know a lot of people kind of get there. So I got my start through literally just watching TikTok videos and all the stuff of being financially free and stuff, and that just kind of led me down this path of going into. My dad also owned a business, obviously, but I think more of it was because of my own personal findings. So was that speech the first thing that kind of triggered it, or was there something else too?
That speech combined, it was all around the same time as the injury itself. So I had really just started learning myself. It was kind of, I forgot who recommended me that book, but after that recommendation, after I read that book is really when that speech happened, and those events coming together really sparked my interest in it.
Got you. Okay, and so you said you run a clothing brand, Revolution, right?
Sure.
So how did you get started into clothing? What made you drift? So you're in entrepreneurship already.
Mm-hmm.
What made you drift towards the clothing business?
Well, I would say that it's actually interesting. I started, my mom was moving out of her old house and moving into a new house around my junior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of clothes that were just filling my closet. I was always a big person that was into fashion and just how I like to dress. So I had a lot of clothes in my closet, and I just made a private Snapchat story, and I was I need to get rid of my clothes, and I don't really want to go through the hassle of posting it on eBay or something like that, so I'll just post it on my Snapchat to people who actually want to buy. And within 1 week I made $350, and I was wow, this is actually a way to make money. So after that I didn't really get really big into it until my senior year. But my senior year when I went to Hyde, I actually would have just clothes in my closet, and then I'd have people come to my room, and then they would just literally just go through all my clothes there, and then it'd be kind of like a store in my dorm room. So yeah.
Okay, so and then how did exactly you come up with the full idea of an urban revolution versus I'm basically the transition from going to
Mm-hmm.
kind of a sole proprietorship versus really creating the business, the brand, stuff like that.
So it's actually interesting. My best friend Ryan we actually created something called Recycle my senior year of high school, which was kind of basically the same kind of idea of Revolution without certain aspects such as the customization and things like that. But what basically happened was when I was posting like these pictures, I'm always looking out for like my friends. So I told them, I was like, hey, I know you guys don't wear all your like clothes. You guys should start posting some of your clothes on Snapchat and stuff like that. And they did, but they were also really big into thrifting as well. And at that time I wasn't. And I started to see when they posted their like vintage pieces, kind of like the older pieces, that had a very like specific niche group that was attracted towards that instead of just thrifted in general. Where, I mean, if you go to a thrift store, you're gonna find everything from fast fashion to vintage to like slightly modern. It's kind of, you know, the whole aspect because people are just donating. But when you have a specific type of clothing, and for me it was vintage, you can really like target that niche demographic.
Well, that's interesting. And then, so you started that what year? Like junior year of high school, you said?
Yeah, I started that Recycle my senior year of high school. And then actually what had happened was we started around November, December. And then as like time progressed, I just realized that in some points I was really the one putting in a little bit more work than other people. Yeah. And so it was kind of and also these are like some of my best friends. So yeah. It was almost putting like a strain on our just relationship in general. So, I mean, at one point during the summer, I had to have the tough conversation of, do you guys really want to do this? Like, are you passionate about it? Because it's really hard. Like, if I'm trying to run a marathon and I have like shackles instead of like team members running with me, it's never going to work. So, me and Ryan, the people who like actually founded Recycle, we actually bought out with the other two members of the team, and then we just split our inventory. And then so from there, I took my inventory and I started Revolution with it. And so therefore, I've just been kind of going that way myself.
Got you. Okay, so that's all your senior year of high school. And then when you come to Babson, were you, like, so obviously you expanded, you have a bigger team now.
Right.
Like before you were kind of solo, with Ryan, right?
Yeah.
So when you come to Babson, you had the intention to expand to a bigger team, or like keep it solo and then kind of expansion just happen by itself?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really think about like expanding at all, to be honest. I thought that with the work that I was doing with Recycle, I could kind of keep doing it with my work ethic by myself for a while with Revolution, just because, you know, in the early stages, there's less things to do. You kind of have like mundane tasks, you kind of just take off one by one. It's not really as organized. Yeah. But once you do start to expand, you realize how many different aspects there are to a business, and that you can't physically do it all because there's only so many hours in a day. Yeah. And a business can't operate with one person just trying to do everything that they can within a day, especially at a certain level.
Exactly. So how'd you go about like expanding your team? Like, did you just kind of choose friends that you really, really messed with here, or like go through application process, or what was that?
Yeah, so actually we have 3 members of our team now, and all of them actually came to me just like interested in being a part of like Revolution. So the first member was Jeffrey Oyegu. He's a sophomore here at Babson, and I met him actually at Launch Babson last year when I came to visit. And then as I was starting to grow my brand, you know, he kind of took an interest because we were pretty good friends and we worked together over at the country club. But we just, you know, our relationship kept forming, and he kind of took more of an interest and started asking me questions about it. And he's a very successful like finance guy. He's done multiple internships with multiple big firms, and he just asked me if like I needed some help. And so I said, yeah, I do need some help. And then he came over, and then like there was no like formal really team membership at that point, but he just came over and I had all my inventory, and he just, you know, put it all in an Excel sheet and like kind of gave me all the financials, because me coming into Babson, a lot of people really have experience with this. I have no experience with accounting, anything on the finance side. So we kind of really took a big step in that role. And then Jolie, she's my vice president of marketing. She just asked me if she like could be a part of the team. And like I've just seen her work ethic and like other aspects such as like schoolwork and the other organizations that she's been involved with, and I just feel like that was really useful on my team, especially with her experience in marketing. And our latest member, Sloan, she inquired as well, and that was more of a interview form instead of just like an informal like, yeah, okay, you can be a part of the team, because as we're expanding, we kind of realized that more and more people could possibly be a part of the team. Yeah. And could want to be a part of the team. So we need to make sure that we're meeting specific needs that are like need to be filled in our.
Gotcha.
business.
So like with team members like that, or first of all, like expanding your business from going solo. Like when you're solo, you know what you want to do, you have everything in mind, but now you got to share that idea and that same vision with group members now. So how do you go about like team cohesion, like bringing everyone together, and how can you kind of bring like a sense of like purpose within the team to go towards this goal?
Right. So one of the biggest things that I really look for in terms of like team members is just like pure passion. And if you don't like share that same passion, it's really not going to work. For example, like on Recycle with my old team, it was kind of like it was a chore to get some people to do things, and it was almost like they would rather not, and they'd rather push it off. But now when you have people who are passionate, it's more of just like a gentle nudge than a full like 2-hand push in order to do things. So in terms of team cohesion, really just like building the friendships, and that just comes with time, and you kind of just have to, bring your team together to do certain things, and you start to see the relationships form, and you kind of just push them towards one another. And it's a really nice thing to see, especially when you're bringing these people together. And that's one of my favorite things to do, even outside of business, is just bring people together that don't know each other, and so they can form new relationships.
Nice. So like, what do you think your biggest struggle has been so far then with the team?
Yeah, so biggest struggle. I would say that there's certain people on the team that have outside commitments other than Revolution. I mean, we all do, right? But there's a certain aspect of like the work where when you're getting paid to do certain types of work, and you're also employed by like Revolution, we really don't have the capital to be paying all of I don't like take any money out. All the money that we make goes straight back into the business. Yeah. So I can't really allocate any money for the time that the other team members are putting in right now. Yeah. But it's that also like pushes the team members in order to like push the business to a place where they can get compensated. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's been certain times where people are employed by like other businesses, and they're getting paid like a significant amount, and they have mountains and mountains of work to do on top of schoolwork. And in terms of me, Revolution is my number one priority. Like, this is my baby. So I sometimes, when I'm operating on such a high level, I'm like, go. And there's other people on the team that are, they have a mountain of work to do, and they're like, Revolution is rightfully not their number one priority. There sometimes has been a disconnect right there, and it's kind of frustrating to not share the same like number one priority. But the most important thing is like when the people do have time, that they're taking that time in order to like allocate that towards Revolution. And I really haven't seen a problem in terms of that. It's more of just like I said, there's only so many hours in a day, and some things have to come first.
That's interesting. So like, I mean, how do you like? What are your plans for the future then for this so far? Like, so right now you're kind of what, like 6-7 months into this now, like fully since the beginning. Yeah. So now that you look at, you've expanded that you didn't originally plan to. So now are you thinking of expanding even further because there's so many other facets of the business?
Yeah. So we haven't really been on a search in terms of filling positions, just because one of the major things for me is I almost feel bad taking like time from other people that are like invested in not being able to compensate them. And I feel like the more the team grows, the more of a pressure on my shoulder that brings. Yeah, that's true. So there have been certain people who have inquired, but it's just a process of thinking about what we really need right now, and how we can utilize our team in different aspects, because as of right now, we're all kind of wearing a couple different hats. Yeah. And that's how it is in a startup. But I mean, we don't plan on stopping our expansion anytime soon. We're trying to be a little bit cautious of who we bring on the team and what that means to Revolution.
Yeah, that's interesting too though. Well, like you were talking about other people have different priorities because they have internships and stuff. Yeah. But for you, Revolution is number one priority. Yeah. But at the same time, on top of Revolution, you also got different priorities. So whether it be family, friends, schoolwork, anything in general, like how are you balancing that out? Or is everything kind of just like first is your company and then everything else second?
Well, priorities have definitely been interesting because it really is a definition of like what you mean by priority, right? Because to me, like priority is what you really like put at the top of your list when it comes down to like everything at the end of the day, like what are you choosing, right? And for me, family's always first, and then after that, priorities come and go as they do. But as you start a business, you really start to see how your business is like ingrained and incorporated in your everyday life. Like there's really not many days that go by that I'm not doing at least something, either whether it be a mundane task or, you know, talking to one of my team members about a future event, like according to Revolution. So it really becomes a part of your life, and it's really not about it has to be your number one priority, right? Because if you're not like what are the words I'm looking for? If you're not fully driven in order to like achieve this goal, everything else under it is kind of just, you know, it's just not there. And if you're not like pushing towards something and that's not at the top of your list, it's never gonna work.
I mean, so like, yeah, you're talking about like the passion. Like the passion is obviously there, but like I feel like with any business or anything you're passionate about, there's gonna come a point, or maybe you've already experienced it, that like just one day, like you just feel like not doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Has that happened to you yet?
Yeah, I mean, it happens like every once in a while. I mean, it's kind of like I relate it to basketball because I've been playing basketball in my life. You don't always want to go to the gym, but to be where you want to be, it's more about discipline than like motivation. And so if you can power through the days when you don't have the motivation, when you don't have the passion for it, you're gonna be straight, because at the end of the day, there's gonna be the lows and there's gonna be the highs, and you don't really have to worry about making it through the highs, because the highs are the highs. But if you can make it through the lows and everything's not going so great, you'll be all right.
You think that's been your biggest challenge?
Honestly, no. There's only been like a couple days where it's really been like, you know, a little bit overwhelming in terms of like school and everything else. But I wouldn't say that like finding the motivation has been like very much of a problem to me.
So like for other people who are like maybe going in the same path as you, or like have no idea about entrepreneurship at all, like what would you say to get started at least?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's really about, well, what we've been learning at Babson is it's really about like problem solving. So you need to fulfill a need that's like needs to be met in the world. So you, like for example, for my FME team, which is Foundations of Management and Entrepreneurship, it's basically a class at Babson where you get funded $3,000 and you start your own business. For me, my group was really socially ventured, and so we ventured into the aspect of homelessness. And we created a 3-in-1 sleeping system designed for people experiencing homelessness, which is a tote bag, a backpack, and a sleeping bag all in one. So it gives homeless people, you know, a way to transport their belongings from point A to point B and also get like the sleep that they deserve. So it's really about like, what are you passionate about, and then filling a problem that needs to be met in that world. And another piece of advice that I can give you is, entrepreneurs are not procrastinators. Like, you need to start as soon as possible, and if you don't start like now, then you'll never start, because now is really the only time that you can.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and I actually about that topic about your FME thing, I thought it was pretty interesting too. So for your kind of like, I guess, business model, because you're selling to homeless people who maybe might not be able to afford it, are you looking to sell to like businesses like homeless shelters, or how are you balancing that out?
Yeah, so there's really two avenues that we're kind of heading in. So the first is to sell to homeless organizations. It would be more of like nonprofits and organizations centered around homelessness rather than homeless shelters themselves, because homeless shelters are the ones that really have like limited budgets and can't really afford to be purchasing, you know, these like bags, because we're trying to make these bags as premium as possible, and they're really going after like the necessities like t-shirts and socks, and everything else that comes is really donated. And then we're also going after the model of, you know, the Bomba Socks model, that you buy, we sell to the consumer, and then everyone bought by the consumer, we donate one to a person experiencing homelessness. So it kind of doubles as, you know, like for campers, they could, you know, take this backpack out and just have everything in one without having like a sleeping bag hanging off, and also, you know, for the homeless people to get all their things around from point A to point B.
What's your position in the FME venture?
I'm the creative director, so I'm like the head of the product design, and I played a big role in the logo and like finalizing all of the like product details, and I also play a decent role in the marketing side too.
So how do you balance that out with Revolution?
Yeah, it's interesting because the thing about FME is you don't get to pick your team members per se. So there's certain ways that I like things to be done, especially coming from a CEO standpoint, that when I bring it into sleep tight and it doesn't get done, certain emotions start to like fluster, and I'm really about, like I said, like act now, like right now, and I hate when people push things off, especially with FME being we only have so much time, and we're supposed to create a successful business within that time. So if you're not doing what you need to do day to day, then it's really not going to work. So it's definitely hard coming from like two different team dynamics and trying to balance that out, because I don't have like ultimate control in the FME group because I don't have that CEO position. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic, but it also adds to like my skill set of being able to transition from the CEO to the creative director and play a somewhat of a more minor role, as some would say.
You think that has been hard though?
It has been hard for sure. I mean, I definitely have to like restrict myself from like saying certain things and calling people out for certain things, but I'm the type of person to just be honest no matter what. And sometimes that kind of gets me in trouble because I really like talk first instead of think first, and then there's been problems that have arisen from that, but it's all about accountability. So when that does happen, you just have to raise your hand and say that it's your fault and just keep it pushing forward. So
do you think you want to change that style, or like you want to keep it that way? I feel like, I don't know, I feel like for me personally, like I'd rather be the person to say what's on his mind and keep it bottled in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I like the style that I have right now. I just think that there's always ways to get better in like honing that style. So whether that be like, one thing that Jolie says, my vice president of marketing, is it's a common phrase, but it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. So you can really get the same message across two completely different ways, and one could be extremely harmful and one could be extremely beneficial. It's just about your tone and how you say it and like your audience. So you just need to be self-aware and aware of those around you.
I think that's it for now. I mean, do you want to plug your website?
Yeah, you can hit up at an urgent revolution on Instagram, and also shoprevolution.net is the website.
Appreciate you coming on, buddy.